Hello, this is Lucas, and today we are going to be looking at a comparison between two masterpiece scale Decepticon Stunticons Breakdown. What we have here from DX9 Toys is their D-13B Montana, and from Fans Toys, their 31C spoiler. Both versions of a masterpiece scale breakdown. As you can probably tell, if you've not already spotted, they're not quite the same. This is the G2 version, Generation 2 Transformers from DX9 Toys, and this is the sort of standard cartoon version from Fans Toys. DX9 have put out a complete sort of standard cartoon set of Stunticons, and they've recently, after a bit of a hiatus, completed their G2 set of Stunticons. And I've picked up their G2 Montana breakdown on the reissue. Breakdown happens to be my favourite of the Stunticons. I'm getting the full set from Fans Toys. I'm just waiting, like everyone else, on Dead End Bandit to complete the set in the next month or two, hopefully. I'm probably not going to get the full set of G2 from DX9, but never say never. Spoiler alert. I've been quite impressed by this figure. So we're going to compare these two today. They are comparable. This, other than the colours, is by all accounts exactly the same as the first version, the G1 version that they put out. So, like I say, it's, even though they're different colours, they're certainly comparable figures. We're going to be having a look at them up against one another today. So we're going to have a bit of a detailed look at both of these today, checking out the general appearance, the build quality, articulation. I'm not going to go through transformation today because there's people out there who are better at that than I, so I'll pop a couple of links in the description to some decent transformation guides if I can find them. But we'll just be comparing one to the other. A few points straight off the bat. I picked up Spoiler in 2020. And I picked up this one this year, but it is an older figure. I paid 100 for Spoiler. That's £100 UK in 2020, and £50 UK for the DX9 Montana. So yeah, this one is certainly the cheaper figure, and cards on the table. This is my favourite of the two, certainly. I'm not going to be completely impartial in this. I think this is a better build. I think it has better paint, but this one has impressed me, certainly, and I'm thinking about getting the full set. DX9 seem to be a pretty good company. I've got a couple of their figures. I have their Power Glide from back in the day. I think that's great. I think even though it's completely different scale to Fans Toys Power Glide, the name of which, third-party name of which I've temporarily forgotten, I think it's still a very strong figure compared to the Fans Toys one. I'll have to do a comparison of those two one day. Yeah, so I'm not going to say this is a better figure. They both have good things going for them. I'm going to quickly take you through accessories, which will not take long. DX9 comes with a blaster, which is, I think, raw plastic, not painted. Does have this nice die cast or metal piece to emulate, I guess, some sort of slider reload mechanism. I am not a gun person. That's his only accessory. He comes with a gun, and comes with a lovely stacked card, credit card, plastic stacked card. Spoiler, doesn't come with much more, to be fair. He comes with his blaster. Both of them, by the way, have I was going to say they both have folding handles, but this one doesn't. This one does. This is all a solid piece. It is painted in a metallic deep blue, which matches the colour on the rest of the figure. To be fair, this matches the rest of the figure, even though it's not painted. You know, they're both very similar to accurate blasters. Spoiler comes with an additional face. Shouty face. It's a shame that the DX9 doesn't come with an additional face. They both, out of the box, come with a sort of standard. It's quite dark, that one. Dark blue face. But it's a sort of standard. Let's see if I can stand him up. Come to that later. Sort of neutral faces, I guess. Neutral, stoic, whatever you want to say. Nice metallic paint on the eyes for fans' toys. And there is red paint on the eyes on DX9. Doesn't stand out quite as brightly or as clearly as the metallic on the fans' toys. So yeah, there's your accessories. Not many accessories for either of them, but that's fine. They're good as they are. Okay, so side by side, general impressions, first impressions, comparing one to the other. They both look great. So, you know, they're both good-looking versions of Breakdown. A few stats. DX9 height, and you can see they're basically the same. Both of them are approximately 21 centimeters to the top of the head. That's 8 1/4 inches. There's, you know, if one is taller than the other, there's very little in it. There's, you know, a hair between them. They're level. We'll come to scale later with the comparisons. Some people, particularly with the fans' toys, were quite vocal about these being too big for car bots. They are bigger than standard car bots, as you'll see with the comparisons later, but that's a deliberate decision that both DX9 and fans' toys took with how they were going to scale the Stunticons, based, I believe, on, you know, various frames in the cartoon where it looks like the Stunticons were a bit bigger than other Transformers. So yeah, they're big bots. The car modes, which we'll come to later, I'm not going to do transformation, but I will show alt modes. The car modes are basically the same as other car bots. So they both do a great magic trick in compacting what's quite a large robot mode to a standard car bot car size. I haven't transformed this guy for a while, so I'm looking forward to that. Weight, so same height, different weight. DX9 is 205 grams, 7.3 ounces if you do ounces. Fans Toys 315 grams, so 110 grams heavier. That's 11.1 ounces. So yeah, they, you know, Fans Toys is a bit more sturdy, is a bit more solid, does have a bit more die cast. Not always necessarily an indicator that a robot's automatically better, but it feels better. You know, as I said, this one's half the price. You feel like you're getting something a bit better quality, at least having spent twice as much money on it. Paint. People do say of the DX9 G2 Stunticons, this is one of the ones with a better finish. The aqua turquoise, some areas of it have a nice flecked metallic finish, for example the hip skirt, and some other areas which I think become the exterior of the vehicle. Some areas are just a flat plastic. The purple largely seems to be a flat plastic. There's not a ton of paint on this ultimately, but still, it looks good. The colours are good. Even where it is clear plastic, it looks good. Fans Toys, as may be expected, feels like it's got a much better finish overall in terms of there being, it looks like a lot more paint across the figure overall. Much more premium finish that you come to expect from Fans Toys. In terms of sort of the cleanliness of the mold, some people, they're both, they don't exactly disappear when you turn to the side, but they're both very slim. The DX9 has a bit more of a backpack, perhaps, but not hugely. There's very little to them when you turn them to the side. Both of them are very slim, quite clean. The legs on the DX9, perhaps you could argue, have a bit more kibble to them, but then saying that, Fans Toys have these loose sort of hood sections and the doors at the back, whereas DX9 have the doors wrapped around the side. The arms on the DX9 arguably are slightly more kibbly, with these again hood sections on the sides and the bottom. But then Fans Toys have the wheel arches up here. There's very little kibble on both of them. They're both quite clean. The legs on the DX9, some people complain they don't hold together too well. And you have these wheel arches on the Fans Toys. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think they're both quite clean overall. So yeah, general appearance and first impression, both good figures. And once again, yeah, I know I'm comparing the G2 here to the G1. I'm not quite sure what the overall paint and finish is on the G1 Toon version of this. Just take a closer look at these backpacks. Again, I think there's very little in it. They both have the high up spoiler. They both have quite slender backpacks. The DX9, you can see the tail lights sort of peeping out, facing to the front, whereas on the Fans Toys, they become encompassed into the sort of shoulder area, which arguably is a little neater. Fans Toys has this nice translucent piece in the center of the chest with some details underneath, whereas on the DX9 this is actually a peg which folds out for the combined mode. I may put a sticker over this whole area, especially if I'm not going to get all the rest of the set. I might do a little bit of touching up on this. You can see the Fans Toys has like silver accents on these distinctive knee circles, whereas on the DX9 they're just same colour, a bit of Molotow chrome pan will sort that out. But yeah, in terms of overall, that they both look good. Sorry to come back to a very basic summing up, but they both look pretty great in my eyes. I know Breakdown's my favourite character and I'm a little biased, but there we are. Okay, I'm going to try and whiz through some articulation, not in granular detail. First of all, straight off the bat, this guy has slightly awkward, janky ankles. Posing him and getting the feet right is awkward. In terms of quite how the ankles work, it's really quite awkward joint in here, which is that's a lot easier to see. So there's a ball joint, but it's a sideways ball joint. So the ball goes into there and supports this vertical thing. So it kind of has a sideways swivel on a ball joint and then can twist on it, but it's really not that great. And positioning the feet, you can do it, but it takes a while. Like when you're getting the bot into position for photos, it's just awkward and janky in a way that, I don't know, X-Transport's Payam, their hoist's shoulders are a bit weird and janky. It reminds me of that in a obviously bad way. So yeah, that is a negative point on the articulation here. Other than that, you know, head swivels all the way around, limited up and down. Shoulders have quite a lot of articulation, you know, get all the way up, articulated in, it's double jointed. No ratchets at all on the rotation or spinning. Double jointed elbow, that's great. Bad hands. All of the fingers are fused together and bent at the knuckle. The thumb is a fused solid thumb with a hinge at the base, so that's not great. They do sort of do dice hands, rotate in and out slightly, but they're not great hands. Has an out crunch, which holds, doesn't have any locking points at all, but it holds where you want it to hold, that's great. Has a waist rotation, which is fine. Single hip skirt at the front, disappointing, but you know, it's okay. Legs go all the way forwards, again, no ratchets whatsoever. Go back to there, there's a big old gap through there. Out to the side, there's a ratchet. Fairly soft ratchet, but there is a ratchet. And go out more than 90 degrees. The knees, yes, perhaps slightly ugly knees once they open up, but you know, I've forgiven that in other figures. It's okay. They only bend 90 degrees. And yeah, down to the slightly wonky, janky ankles that we've mentioned. Some people complain that the legs sort of come apart on them when they're manipulating them. They can do, but they're okay. They hold together okay. It's this it's a very sort of, there's a peg of clear plastic here, which goes into this notch here to hold the back of the fly in, which can be a bit awkward, but once it's in there, it holds okay. So overall, it's got okay articulation. Not brilliant, and terrible feet. Hard to get him to stand up, but yeah. So there we go, DX9. So spoiler articulation. It's been a while since I've had this guy out of the cupboard and played with him, so you will learn with me what his articulation is like. I can't quite remember, to be honest. Let's find out what he's got. Head, quite a lot of up. A fairly good down. Squeaky stiff. Oh, turn around. Shoulders. Okay. Certainly more limited than DX9. I don't think there's a way to get those shoulders up in the air. Oh, let's have a look. I don't think yeah, bicep rotation. Certainly, he's got that. Yeah. Bicep rotation. Full range there. And hands. This is certainly an improvement over DX9 in that he has somewhat spindly but fully articulated separate fingers, pinned at the base with another joint, ball joint on the base of the thumb. The thumb is solid other than the ball joint at the base. Yep. And waist, no ab crunch, which DX9 did have, just a rotation. I don't think there's a hinge here, but that's presumably something else for transformation, because yeah, the backpack's starting to come apart if I try and bend him. He doesn't have certainly doesn't have an ab crunch. Hip skirts separate. So yeah, he has side hip skirts rather than a full hip skirt. And hip skirts at the back, which, let me just check. No, this guy doesn't have a hip skirt at the back. No side hip skirts, just like the DX9. No gap through the middle of his crotch region, which is a bonus. Hurdles, not quite as extensive as DX9, who could go more than 180. Probably more than you need. Rotation around the universal joint. Ooh, all the way on the legs. And no rotation at the knee. We've got ankle tilt. Oh, and the foot goes right down that way. There's quite a lot going on here. It starts to come apart on you. Yeah, pretty good. And none of that weirdness. Like, this is quite easy to just put into a pose and plonk. Whereas this one, you have to spend ages with these weird, janky feet. Oh, something I didn't mention. This guy has heels that articulate. I mean, it's because they fold into the feet. But it looks like they're upside down when they're folded out, but they're not. There's they rotate, which they don't. But yeah, it's really hard to just get this guy to plant his feet in the earth in a way that's gives you reassurance that he's not going to fall over. Whereas this guy, a lot easier to do that. So yeah, overall, I prefer the articulation and the posability on spoiler. Now I've got to work out what we're going to look at next. Okay, I think what we're going to look at next is going to be alt mode. So wish me luck. I've got to transform both these guys. Have not transformed him for a long time, and I'm going to have to redo the decals on his bonnet because they seem to be slightly worn. So I'll get them transformed, then I'll come back. Well, possibly not today, but as far as you're concerned, in a minute, and we'll take a look at their alt modes. Okay, so before we look at alt mode, although spoiler alert, promise that's the last time I do that joke. Here he is in alt mode. Let's just put that to one side. I'm going to look at some comparisons. Yes, I've already transformed Fans Toys spoiler into alt mode, but they're both the same size. So here we are with Megatron. This is the Infinite Transformation IT-01. Is it Emperor of Destruction? I don't know. But Megatron. So he shapes up with him. Once again, this guy is a bit bigger than standard Carbots. If you want a smaller Stunticon, go for X-Transbots. But both DX9 and Fans Toys went for the larger version. So let's see him next to a masterpiece scale Carbot, so you can see what I mean. This is DX9's Red Storm, their recent return to masterpiece Transformers. They popped up out of nowhere and started making Transformers again. And here's their sideswipe. And yeah, massive size difference. I can see why some people might be upset by the scale of the Stunticons by Fans Toys and DX9. They really do not scale with standard Carbots. But that's because they're kind of not supposed to. Let's look at an official Takara Transformer. That's Hound. My copy seems to be holding together for now. This is the official Hound. I think it's got a bit of a crack back there, but I'm not going to transform it again. Seems to be doing okay. And Fans Toys Jazz. So yeah, he's bigger than most other Carbots. But that's, I think, intentional. A decision made by DX9 and Fans Toys that their Stunticons were going to be bigger. Once we've got Jive here, there's Jive X. And here is, there we go. So that's the Fans Toys spoiler and Fans Toys Jive X. And whilst the robot modes are considerably different in size, the alt modes once again. There we go. And the Fans Toys is the same size as that one. The alt modes match up just fine, which is pretty clever, I guess. So yeah, there's some comparisons. Let me get DX9 into alt mode and we'll look at both of them in alt mode and close off the review. So quick look at alt mode, and there's much of a muchness. They both end up being the same size pretty much. DX9's a little bit bigger, but both of them fit in with the Masterpiece alt mode scale, saying that this is the Fans Toys Jive alt mode. But as mentioned, the bot mode is a lot bigger than most car bot modes, but the car mode fits in just fine. Both of them have similar gimmicks in respect of opening doors, but no interior detail. I personally don't care for interior detail, doesn't bother me. Usually if a robot has interior detail, it seems to undermine the integrity of the figure, so I'm not too worried about it. Both of them supposedly have weapon storage. There's a slot in the roof of DX9 where this gun's supposed to go, but I can't make it fit. I guess it's due to paint. Fans Toys, the gun slots in there just fine. I'm never too worried about weapon mode storage either. But yeah, in terms of transformation, I guess I have to say that DX9 is a little more straightforward, but revisiting the transformation of this guy, not bad at all, really. It wasn't difficult, wasn't too tricky, managed it just fine. Not massively more difficult than the DX9. Both good, both fairly straightforward. So there we go. That's the DX9 and Fans Toys breakdown.